Brijesh, today we were discussing that one, cookie groups are speaking in different voices. Second thing is, we were analyzing the photograph of Biren Singh, and I say that this creates an impression that this is a law and order issue. And the third aspect of our conversation was an appeal. By a spokesperson. Do you think the leaders at center are speaking less? That is the third part of the conversation. They're speaking less. They're speaking less about violence. They're speaking less about the problem. They're treating it like a, इसको हम कहते हैं ना, वो ठेठ अपनी हिंदी में यूपी में ठीक कर देंगे.
Well, Kartikeya, I wouldn't say that leaders in center are speaking less. I think leaders everywhere are speaking less. Okay. Because somehow everybody is of the opinion that we will be able to fix this situation, and if we speak a lot, it will be portrayed as our failure rather than a sincere attempt to undo what wrong has been done, or to salvage the situation on the ground. See, what happens is that whenever any such violence occurs, there is always that one odd WhatsApp message, there is always that one odd WhatsApp video, which further inflames the passions. And this is one of the big reasons why internet is clamped down, because the government would not want that scenario to go out of hand. All those WhatsApp messages, all those WhatsApp videos, all those incendiary messages which should have been controlled, and the law and order situation, somehow the government has not come out as a very sincere, or the efforts of the government has not come out as something which is very sincere, non-partisan approach to solving this problem. I completely understand that if a person of Kuki origin or a person of Maiti origin has misgivings, or they do feel that their ethnicity has been dealt wrongly, I completely get that, because they are the one who is on the ground suffering firsthand, this way or that way. But what is not happening, what is something which I would love to see, is that the reach out by the government is not that solid enough to send a message that we mean business. Even when it comes to controlling law and order situation, the message still not has percolated down on the ground that the government means business, and if anybody, irrespective of his ethnicity, if he takes any action or takes law in his own hand, he will be dealt with severely. That is not happening, and that is the reason I think that as the word goes, the istiqbal of the government, the iqbal of the government is not reflecting on the ground. Nobody is taking the government or what the government is saying serious enough for them to alter their course of action.
आप इस्तकबाल की बात कर रहे हो, talking about इस्तकबाल, Brijesh, but there is also one thing. There is a lot of politically, even within BJP, there is resentment against that. There are very sharp difference of opinion on Biren Singh. He stays there. You have explained to us why he stays there, but there is very sharp opinion. But there is no movement also. Why politically? Why is that happening?
See, what is happening is right now BJP doesn't want to remove Biren Singh for 2-3 reasons. The first reason is that the BJP does not want to send a message that they have caved in. That they have caved in because of the violence which is unfolding, that they have been forced to make Biren Singh resign. This is one message which the current leadership of the BJP will not do, come what may. The second is that, Biren Singh is not a 100% organic BJP leader. He has come from Congress, and they would not want to create a martyr out of Biren Singh, where a situation emerges where Biren Singh might do to BJP what he has done to Congress. So they are trying to avoid that kind of situation. But honestly speaking, this attempt of not removing Biren Singh is not having any kind of positive impact on the ground, because the positioning is, if I may only go by the conversations we had in the last 75 days, is that the positioning is only getting hardened. It's not getting diluted in any which way possible. Both ethnicities, be it Kuki or Maitis, they have hardened their position, and there's no getting back on that.
Prasannajit ji, coming to you now, do you feel that these people are speaking less instead of speaking more? Seen less with people who are displaced than they should be seen more? Why should only security forces be seen with people who are displaced and not people who get elected? ये क्यों है ऐसा? Primary responsibility lies with those who have been elected, not those who are there to defend the border. That's not their primary responsibility. Why has this inversion happening in modern India over a period of time? You can give me a big picture.
Yes, the bigger picture is that our political leadership, especially elected representatives, they become more dependent on the security mechanism. So they securitize every social problem, every civil issue. So there is a huge mobilization of security forces. And these days, there is a practice of surveillance, there is a practice of data collection, and then taking a call on the matter. Now this entire process has become too mechanical. There is no ear on the ground. There is no heart-to-heart connection between the elected representative and the electors. So what is happening? People who are internally displaced, let's say, Kuki people, their own representatives are in a certain kind of a shrouded situation. Kuki MLAs are not allowed to function. I mean, that's a kind of a situation in Manipur. Manipur has this asymmetry, 37 or 40 on one side and 20 on other side. Now, this is a structural asymmetry, a structural injustice. Now, this has created a huge problem. Now, Maitai MLAs are not acceptable to the other communities at this point of time of polarization. So, at the ground level, there is polarization. At the governmental level, there is no support system to the MLAs also. Only a few ministers, only a few officers are able to move around. Now, this is a total failure of the state administration, I must say, squarely. And there is no assembly session, An assembly session must have been conducted within this crisis times. Then there could have been a stronger message, a stronger line of action for the internally displaced people. We could have heard, even parliament is not in session. So we should have special sessions of parliament and assemblies to discuss this kind of a mayhem, to discuss this genocidal situation, to discuss this huge humanitarian crisis that is blowing in Manipur. But there is absolutely no response at the institutional level. Now, Constitution prescribes that these institutions like Assembly, District Council, Parliament, and these representative bodies, the lawmakers, have to make their ground reality assessment, and then they should work out a policy mechanism. But where is that? It is getting confined within the AC room of a chief minister or a minister. It should really come out in the public what the elected representatives are thinking. And they can come out on the floor of the assembly. Why assembly is not summoned in Manipur? That's a very big question in my mind. Then comes the question of discussing it at the central level, at the parliament level. Of course, there will be some attempt, I'm sure, in this ensuing session of the parliament. But keeping out this institutional process, there is no heart-to-heart talk between the elected representative and the electors. There's a breach, a complete breach of communication. And therefore, the situation has become very complex, very hard, very difficult. But then it requires an interlocutor, a mediator. It requires bringing people together at the local level. Now, I don't know who is going to do that. It can start even in a place like Delhi, where communities can come together. But that also didn't work because External Affairs Minister held a meeting, but that didn't have any impact, So we have seen that political mechanism is not working, as if vigilantes have taken over everything. And this is something, a massive state failure at this point when India is trying to project its soft power everywhere in the world. So this is bringing a setback to the image of the country, I must say. If we are not able to summon the assembly, if we are not able to discuss it in parliamentary forum. So therefore, I would say that these institutional processes need to be reactivated in a slow and steady manner. As much as the government needs to speak, it must speak to the people. It must go to the house. It must be available at the doorstep. By a call, it must be available. But there is no mechanism even to give a distress call in Manipur. The district administration, the police administration, the health administration, everybody have to be brought together. And this can be brought together by respective ministries, by authorities. Distress call is not working in Manipur. So what else is working in Manipur? So therefore, there is a massive failure at every level. And in that, there is a clouding of the situation. There is a confusing and confounding of the confusion kind of a situation in Manipur. So a solid intervention is needed. Security forces can keep attacking parties away. But security forces cannot bring peace in Manipur. They can keep the attackers away. They can neutralize people who are involved in killing and mayhem, but they cannot do something beyond that. Rest of the work, the major work, lies with the elected representative by the government. And here government is leaving everything to security, and there's a huge gap. Visibly, there's a huge gap. Even in supply of ration, supply of clean drinking water, supply of proper electricity, medicine, there is a humanitarian crisis. I don't know how people are surviving in such a difficult situation. So these difficulties have to be removed so that confidence can be rebuilt. And that's not happening in the case of Manipur. I'm so sorry to say that.
Madam Guite, would you like to respond? Very impressive. Professor, very, very impressive. I must applaud you. I must applaud you for such an incisive, this vigilantism, vigilantism is the word. Yes, actually vigilantism is the word. Madam Guite, he has hit the nail.
Truly agree, Karthikeya, truly agree with it. And I would just add on to by saying that, when we try to look the path forward, it now at this present juncture, it seems like a riddle, and it may take years of concerted efforts to resolve. But, the immediate priority is to stop the violence. And as Professor Prasenjit said, that the stakeholders at the government. So if we also try to look answer in the history, I have come across a very interesting article by a lady called Aribam in one of the daily newspapers, where she talks about, the intervention of Gandhi in the communal rights in Nakhauli, in Chittagong division in Bengal. Now it's Bangladesh. So this was in October to November 1946. And that time the Britishers could not control the law and order situation. So Gandhi went to that place, and he arrived in Nakhauli, and they live in the relief camps for 4 months as they try to rebuild the social fabric of the area. And they organized like prayer meetings, they held meetings with the local leaders, and also they tried to inspire trust between the communities in question. So there was some resentment against his effort, which led to stray incidents of violence. But it is undeniable that his presence stopped the riots from escalating further. So maybe time that we need to look back into the history of how our freedom fighters and our political leaders has really intervened in stopping this kind of ethnic riots and violence. So I think I am totally in the same page with Professor Prasenjit, and also we need to take lesson from the history, and the first priority is to end the violence. Because you see, as he rightly pointed out, that there is so many sufferings in terms of, as days pass, you see pregnant women in relief camps. And then Manipur being a very tropical area, you have that high incidence of malaria, which is prevailing because of the mosquitoes and the geographical, topographical nature. So all those things are really inhuman, and I think for the sake of humanity, even the political leaders and all the stakeholders should rise above the differences and try to end this violence at the utmost immediate, priority. I would say that. So seeing the suffering, which is avoidable suffering, but we created it. I would say it's a man-made disaster. We all talk about natural disaster. The National Institute of Disaster Management has on NIDM has those acts and rules and all, but nobody talks about the man-made disaster of such kind of magnitude of violence. So what should be the protocol when this kind of thing happen? Which authority should be the right authority to immediately rush to the spot and address this kind of violence, right? So so I think that's what I have to say in terms of ending and bringing about peace in the area.
Okay, Rohan?
Yes. Now let's come to the practical part, sir and ma'am. I, as a humanitarian, who has been doing this act for quite a long time, I was also one of the first humanitarian who came to More and in the year 2021, in the month of April, and helped out a good number of refugees during that time, being known that this was against all the protocol that I had to, break out. Today, let me also come up with a very positive aspect. I don't know how risky this is. Misa also invited me in yesterday's conversation to Churchanpur. I am ready to come a humanitarian tour to Churchanpur. So, Professor Guite, can you please guarantee me that the all will be well when I come to Churchanpur for a humanitarian aid? Nothing on an enmity part, nothing on the bias or the communal or the ethnicity part, but just as a humanitarian, presenting myself as a human being. I would like to come to Churchanpur for a humanitarian tour. And I believe like this would be, at least the beginning of a good talk between the two communities. Presenting myself as a Meitei from the Meitei community, also I'm ready to do that. And if you are welcome for that, then I'll take all my risks today, not just for myself, but I believe that this I have to do for our state, Manipur, and also for all the humanity, all for the two communities also. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that.
Okay, Brijesh.
Can I just come?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Please.
Yeah, yeah, Rohan, of course, I would say 101% that can take guarantee that nothing will happen to you, because if you see when the violence broke out or these things, so it's not that I come from a Kuki-Zo tribe, that's why I'm supporting them or I am in always defense of them. But the kind of events which is happening, that kind of attack or coming and attacking in the person's other's territory is not something which is happening. So on humanitarian ground, you come and do that. So I think it's not only you, I think everyone is welcome to address those crises. And one more thing, like I have seen your interview with Major Muhammad Ali Shah, and in that you have talked about the Kuki playing the Christian card, but I would want to say that communal Christian card was never played by the Kuki-Zo. I may be corrected if I am wrong, but
Madam Guite, I hope someone plays a Manipuri card. That will really make me very happy. People have played the Naga card, Kuki card, Christian card, so many cards. I hope someone really plays a Manipuri card. I'll be very, very happy.
But Karthikeya,
this is entirely a ethnic conflict, not a communal conflict.